On Monday night, Donald Trump called for Iran's unconditional surrender. Trump claimed credit for Israel's uncontested freedom over the skies of Tehran, and he said he knew where the supreme leader was hiding, but he would spare his life for now. In response, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei declared the battle begins. With every night that passes, the US is inching closer to war with Iran. This war is following the same pattern as Israel's 18-month war on Gaza. The more the victim resists, the greater the anger and violence of the aggressor. Allowing Israel to attack Iran and then attacking Iran with B-2s and bunker-busting bombs would, however, be the worst miscalculation a US president has made since George W. Bush invaded Iraq. That too was done at Israel's behest. And look what happened. 8 years of conflict, at least 650,000 dead, the spawning of the Islamic State, and a country on the verge of collapse from which it has yet to recover 14 years on. Trump's decision could prove even more calamitous and much more long-lasting. Just consider what would happen if Trump and Netanyahu won, if the regime collapsed and the CIA installed the Shah's son from California. Netanyahu would be crowned the indisputed hegemon of the Middle East. Every Gulf leader would go crawling to him on their hands and knees. The Abraham Accords would be signed, sealed, and delivered. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Palestinians would flee Gaza and the West Bank and head for Europe. And you'd have this well of anger, humiliation, and sense of defeat buried so deep in every Arab and Iranian heart that would fuel the hatred of Israel for generations to come. Peace at this price would not be wonderful, in Trump's words. It would be sullen, angry, and highly explosive. It would not feel like a defeat on the scale of 1967 or 1973. It would be bigger than that. It would be a time bomb ticking away under every Arab regime. But we are far away from Iran waving the white flag. If anything, Iran has just got into gear. Iran has been through this before. For 8 years, it fought a bitter and bloody war after it was attacked by Saddam Hussein. It is this bitter experience, no less Islamic Republic's ideology, that has fashioned Iran's foreign policy. Its nuclear enrichment program and its rocket arsenal were all burnished in the fire of the Iran-Iraq war. Like Netanyahu, the Iraqi dictator launched a war when he deemed his neighbor to be at its most vulnerable. On the 22nd of September 1980, Iran's then supreme leader, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, was still grappling with post-revolutionary chaos. He didn't have an army, much of it was dissolved when the Shah was toppled. Iran had a combination of regular forces and the newly formed, untested Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. But it was so short of weapons that they were passed from one soldier to another as they fell in waves on the front line. Saddam's forces initially made rapid advances, but they were slowly pushed back at a huge cost in lives. Like Netanyahu today, Saddam was supported by the US and Europe. He got the means to manufacture the chemical weapons from German companies, which provided the technology and precursor chemicals needed to manufacture mustard gas, sarin, tabun, and other chemical agents. 3 years into the war, the late US President Ronald Reagan sent his then bright young thing, Donald Rumsfeld, to shake hands with Saddam. The National Security Decision Directive, the NSDD 144 of the 26th of November 1983, stated the US objective. It only wanted to protect its military forces and its oil supplies in the Gulf. Saddam's chemical weapons were of no concern to Rumsfeld or Reagan, but an entire generation of Iranians will never forget those gas attacks, from which veterans suffer to this day. And it was this bloody and savage war, which Iran eventually won, that forged the determination of Tehran to train and build a network of armed groups from the Mediterranean to its borders as a form of deep defense. That original chain of militias is for the moment inactive. Only the Houthis are still fighting. Hezbollah is silent after its defeat at the hands of Israel. The new regime in Syria and Iraq just watch as the Israeli jets fly overhead on their way to Iran. Plainly, Iran remains exposed to attack as never before. But there's another way of looking at it. Iran and Hezbollah did all in their power to avoid a war with Israel. But their reticence in striking back after repeated blows was interpreted by Netanyahu as weakness. The absence of an Iranian response was read as an encouragement to go for the jugular, which is where we are now. Like Saddam in 1980 or Bush in 2003, Netanyahu's placing all his bets on a short war and an early, swift capitulation by Iran. But unlike any war Israel has fought since 1973, Israeli warplanes are attacking a real army and a a real state. Iran has strategic depth. It has the enrichment centrifuges buried half a kilometre underground at some of its 5 sites. Even if the enrichment centrifuges buried under a mountain at Fordow are put out of action, Iran still has 500 kilograms of enriched uranium, which could be stored anywhere. It could close the Straits of Hormuz, through which 21% of the global petroleum liquids transit within the blink of an eye. It also has a huge range of US targets to attack in the region and beyond. And while the Iraqi militias are keeping their heads down now, they are unlikely to remain so indefinitely. An Iranian regime which feels under existential threat has every incentive now to develop a bomb, even if, as the US intelligence establishment has told its president, there is no evidence they have been doing that. The relative weakness of Tehran's conventional arms and its vulnerability to the F-35s will provide the same logic to a battered Iran as it did to Putin, who thought at one stage in the war in Ukraine he was on the verge of losing Crimea. He threatened to use a tactical nuclear missile, and the then US President Joe Biden took that threat seriously. If Trump and Netanyahu think they are dissuading Iran from getting a bomb by dismantling their conventional means of self-defense, they are sorely mistaken. Any nuclear strategist who has wargamed these scenarios will tell you that the weaker and less reliable conventional forces are, the more heavily a state will lean on its nuclear deterrent, and the readier it will be to use it as a weapon of first resort. There is no indication yet that this is the thinking of Iran's supreme leader or its government, but public opinion in Iran, even before this attack, is turning to a clear majority in favour of getting the bomb. Trump said the US would not tolerate a North Korea in the Gulf, but that is what he might achieve by allowing Israel to bomb Iran. But Trump is not exactly known for his ability to think strategically. He's a television man who thinks in sound bites and is swayed by the last person he talks to. Israel will soon run out of Arrow air defense missiles, which are expensive and difficult to produce. At their current rate of use, they have 2 weeks left, if not resupplied by the US. Even if most of the Iranian ballistic missiles get shot down, they are using up scarce resources every time they are fired. Iran's ability to fight a long war should not be underestimated. Israel's ability to do so should not be overestimated. The bombing of Gaza could not have continued for more than 2 months without the US resupplying Israel with heavy bombs, and this war is looking the same. Either way, Trump in his second term has started the mother of all battles, which neither he nor Netanyahu have a clue how to stop.